Hello everybody and welcome to How Now Mr. G. Today we will be talking about how to write a characterization. A characterization is an analysis task typically appearing in English test scenarios. The question here is, what defines a character? And well, to answer that question we will start with some wisdom words on watchfulness expressed by a Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. And watch your habits, they become your character. And watch your character, it becomes your destiny. What we think, we become. Okay, well, you might have realized that the word watch is repeated here all the time. Watch, or let's say the letters of the word watch, W-A-T-C-H, can stand for words, actions, thoughts, companions, and habits. Well, these 5 elements here seem to be vital when characterizing a person. We will use these as a starting point for our ideas on characterizations. Okay, let's try to organize our first ideas. Here you see a way of how to organize a characterization. We have our watchfulness poem here, and that watchfulness poem has defined 5 elements defining the main part of our characterization. Words, actions, thoughts, companions, and habits. Well, what else do we need to know when thinking about a character? Of course, we start with an introduction, and here we will present the character. In that character presentation, we start with the basic personal data of the character. The name, the age, the sex, the nationality of the character. Then we will talk about the social background of the character. For example, family status, married, unmarried, divorced, children, the social status, richer family, middle class, poorer family, maybe a broken home. We will talk about the education level, higher education, lower education, and we will talk about the residence, meaning the place where the character lives. The idea here is that living conditions influence and shape a character. Of course, we will talk about the outward appearance, which is the body, the face, and of course the way the character dresses. Clothes make the man, as Mark Twain used to say, or simply clothes make people. Here you would assume that the way a person dresses tells you something about the character traits of the character. And of course, we will talk about the function in the story, the role the character plays in the story. Do we have a hero here, an anti-hero, the protagonist, an antagonist, a major character or a minor character? These are the topics we would address in that introduction. Then we would move on to the big chunk. The 5 elements here, words, actions, thoughts, companions, and habits, they would define the main part here. Okay, well, when talking about words, we would talk about the language the character uses, the register, language used to express social status. Let us suppose we have a character here who uses colloquial language, slang, maybe swear words, and well, the language the character uses is full of grammatical errors. In that case, you might want to argue that you have an ordinary, simple, rather common type of character in front of you. We could also have a character here who uses very formal English, filled with foreign words and maybe some Latin or French expressions. In that case, the character might want to emphasize that the character is from an upper class and has sophisticated and refined manners and believes to be better than others. Actions. Forrest Gump keeps saying, stupid is as stupid does. By the way, great movie. Here you would say that you can judge people best when looking at the actions and not at what people only say. There is no good unless you do it. Good people tend to do good deeds and evil people tend to do evil deeds. Well, that's actually quite simple. Jesus says in the Bible, you will know them by their fruit, meaning you will actually know what a person is like when you look at the person's actions and not what the person says. If you have someone who actually does what he or she says, then you have a credible person here. If you have someone who does not do what he or she says, then you have a character who is not credible. So, looking at the actions, we can also, well, interpret the character rather well. Thoughts. Here we will talk about the attitudes of a character, emotions, dreams, motives, and opinions the character has, and thereby try to interpret, well, character traits of the character. Companions, the fourth one. Also, you could call it relationship to others. Here you would talk about, or maybe try to answer the question, how the character sees the people around him or her. Also you would try to answer the question, how the people, the companions, see the character. So how the character sees the companions and how the companions see the character. Finally, we'll talk about habits. Habits are rituals, things you do automatically, fixed views and maybe a fixed mindset, some unchangeable ideas. Good habits would be being organized, brushing teeth every morning and every night, being sportive and healthy eating. Well, problematic or negative habits would be drinking alcohol, smoking, swearing, and being disorganized. So, by looking at what a character does repeatedly, you might also want to conclude what the person's character is. Okay, that would be the main part. Of course, we need to finish with a conclusion. Here we would finish with some sort of evaluation of the character. And here you might want to answer questions like, can you identify with the character? Identification. Can you understand the character's behavior or ideas? And most important, you might want to answer the question, what can the reader learn from the character? Is the character a role model? And once you've done that, you have written a well-organized characterization. Let us talk about style. Stylistically speaking, you have to explain the character. How do you do that? Well, you describe the words, the actions, the thoughts, the companions, and the habits of the character, and then you try to interpret what they tell you about the character traits of that character. So when you look at the language the character speaks, you want to explain and interpret what the language tells you about the character. When you think about the actions, the good deeds and the evil deeds, you want to conclude what they reveal about the character. When you think about the thoughts, the attitudes, the emotions, the motives and the opinions of that character, you want to interpret what they tell you about the character traits of that character. When you think about the companions, that means the social interaction of the character and the society and the character, you want to explain what the relationship to others tells you about the character. Finally, when you look at the habits of the character, the repeated behavior, you want to explain what these habits tell you about the character. Well, that will be the first thing. Next, you quote to prove your points. Typically, you don't have to write a characterization dealing with the whole novel or with the whole play. Typically, you have an extract before you having line numbers. Here, you must make sure that you refer to the lines and tell the reader where the reader sees the interesting words, actions, thoughts, companions, and habits you want to investigate, so to say. The paragraphs. Of course, you must organize your writing by writing paragraphs. When you write on words, start with a topic sentence that tells the reader that you now deal with the words, the language the character speaks. Then you elaborate your point, and finally you write a concluding sentence to signalize the reader that you have finished the part dealing with the words or the language use. The same applies to actions, thoughts, companions, and habits. Make sure that each new aspect gets a new paragraph. Language. Make sure you use linking words and useful phrases. You find these language boxes in all your textbooks. Please make sure you use them to improve your writing style. Finally, present tense. Make sure you use simple present, present perfect, present tense when writing your characterization. Well, should you follow these 5 stylistic pieces of advice here, nothing can go wrong. Can we do that? I believe we can. Good luck for your exam.